What up, guys? This is Guru Jojo Nanda. No, I'm not a real guru. Just the name suits for what I'm reading into and stuff like that. But my real name is Joseph, so hence the Jojo. Anyways, this video is going to be about Hinduism, a comparison with Hinduism and Santeria. Why those two religions? That's pretty random, right? Well, those two religions happen to be the two religions that I have dove the most into. And I have experience with them both as far as studying with them and practicing them. I've gotten deeper into practicing Santeria just because of the regional proximity to people who actually know how to do it correctly and teach you about it and speak about it. Hinduism is a little bit harder to get to sources that teach it well. But yeah, this video is going to be about similarities and differences about the two. Because I find that both those, for me, yeah, it's my personal story, so obviously I have connection to both of them. But because of the connection I've made with both of them, I find them eerily similar. In the cases that I'm going to make, they do have their differences, but for two cultures that are so far apart, I find it so interesting the similarities that they do have, because I'm going to start off with their differences, but I'm going to end my point with the similarities, because similarities should be what keep us all together. But yeah, so Hinduism, obviously in the Hindu regions, which would be India and the Indus Valley and stuff like that. Santeria would, a lot of people would say that it's like from the Caribbean, but it originates, the roots of it come from Africa, obviously. Primarily the West Africa, around the Congo and Yoruba, specifically Yoruba. So there's a lot of different aspects here, obviously, because there's different cultures in play. But so some of the similarities. So differences. First of all, just to say some things. Both of them have one thing that they both have in common, just to say one, then I'm going to go back to the differences. One thing that both of these religions have in common is the fact that they both have like original names. So Hinduism is like the culture. It's the name that's given generally to the practices of the people of India. But the name of like when they talk about their gods and their goddesses, the name of the practice that they, the truths of their things, they call it Sanatana Dharma. That would be the name of Hinduism, so to speak, without calling it Hinduism. Same thing kind of goes for Santeria. One of the appropriate names for it is Lucumi. Lucumi is a word supposedly in Yoruba that means my friend, something to that effect. So you can call Santeria Santeria, you can call Santeria Lucumi, you can call it the Yoruba religion. It all really depends on how correct you want to be, or where you're at and who you want to please to. But so I'm going to address Hinduism as Sanatana Dharma. I'm not going to say Hinduism anymore unless it just slips out. And I'm not going to say Santeria no more. I'm going to be saying Yoruba or Lucumi unless Santeria slips out. Unless it's, whatever's convenient for me. So differences. Sanatana Dharma ultimately speaks on what's best for the soul. And that what's best for the soul is to merge with God, to liberate the soul so it unifies itself again with God. That there's the Supreme Self, and that we have to reconnect with the Supreme Self. That there's one self that our souls merge into. That's like the end all be all, the goal for Sanatana Dharma. For Hinduism, I'm sorry, not for Hinduism, for Lucumi, for Santeria, the end all be all, it speaks on how you can, like, the tradition, what you're doing is perfecting the life of the individual. So like Sanatana Dharma can be very, very general. There's four paths of yoga, right? There's four paths that you could take to merging with the divine in Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism. You can take Kriya Yoga, you could take Karma Yoga, you could take Bhakti Yoga, you can take Jnana Yoga. All of these are different paths of yoga that you can take to unify yourself with God, God consciousness. In Lucumi, in Santeria, it talks about specifically you. Like it's a lot. It has a lot to do with getting the truth out of your life. It has a lot to do with divination. It has a lot to do with, some of it's learning about your past lives. Some of it has to do with what you are doing in this life. So there's kind of like an application of karma to that too. They don't use the word karma, but it's there. It's insinuated in the tradition. So what the differentiation that I'm trying to make there is that Sanatana Dharma kind of gives you these four routes for generally what's good for the soul, right? And then Santeria, Lucumi, they practice divination. They practice learning, telling the future and telling your future and stuff like that to know what you should be doing in life, in this life that you're in. Either to correct your past mistakes or to correct the mistakes in this life, or just to better this life. It all depends on where you're at karmically and stuff like that. Okay, and then so another difference in Sanatana Dharma, there's an idea that of what you should be loyal to, right? So in Sanatana Dharma, you should be loyal to your guru, because guru is the closest thing to God. There's God, then there's a guru. Well, I'm sorry. There's God, the ultimate divinity. Then there's gods and goddesses. Then it would be the guru, and then the guru would be the closest thing on earth to God, and would be giving God's energy and stuff like that. In Lucumi, in Santeria, it's kind of the same thing, but there's because of the whole divination thing, they kind of tell you a path to go on and what you should be doing. In Sanatana Dharma, they will too. They'll guide you and put you on a spiritual path, but the path is of liberation. So it starts getting very, very general, where you'll there's gonna be people doing what you're doing, right? For Santeria and for Lucumi, a lot of times the advice that you get on how to fix your life, it's going to be very individual. It's not going to apply to anyone else. It's going to be specifically for you and for the life that you live, and no one else has to do it. This is instruction for you. So in that way, Lucumi gets so personal. It really doesn't really have to do with there's no general idea to their rules or their beliefs after a certain point. In Sanatana Dharma, there's no animal sacrifices. They do not see that as necessary for the evolution of the soul. Their knowledge is seen to be beyond that's something without being offensive. It's seen to them as something that's barbaric, something that was needed at a time where our conscious wasn't yet developed, or for people whose conscious is not yet developed to the point where they can get further just through their consciousness, just through their meditation and stuff like that. So at some point, all of these traditions all practice sacrifice to better their circumstances, animal sacrifice. But so continuing. So Santeria is also known as witchcraft and stuff like that. India has its fair share of things just like that, just like witchcraft. Just it's all relevant to the occult. It's all or the occult sciences, right? Knowing how to manipulate nature, knowing how to manipulate the environment to whatever it is you're using. Um, in Lucumi Santeria, the orishas are an element of nature. All right, so the gods and goddesses of Lucumi, maybe I should probably have said that. Orishas are the gods and goddesses of Lucumi, of Santeria, of Yoruba, right? Of Africa, of West Africa, of Yoruba. If you go along that West African part, you're gonna see that all the gods have the same similarities. They might not be the names might not be the same as the Yoruba names, but the Congo gods are the same as the Yoruba gods. They were just different. So Lucumi is actually a language that was created by all of the African tribes that were taken in slavery, because at the time the white man assumed that all the blacks were just all the same. They had no idea that they took multiple languages with them and people from different tribes, and they just didn't care, or they didn't apply it. They just put them all together. So Lucumi is a language that they developed on the slave trade, on their way over there once they got settled and stuff like that. That's a language that got developed among the different tribes. So it's Lucumi. When you speak it in the ceremonies that you do in Santeria, you always have to do a song, a canto, and stuff like that. The language Lucumi was always a combination of all of their languages. Continuing with the differences, in Lucumi, all the gods and goddesses are parts of nature that you perpetuate to get closer in contact with God, right? God is this ultimate being, and the gods and goddesses are the transmission or the communication transmitters between us and God, because God is so powerful. God is genderless in Yoruba as well as in Hinduism. So, continuing with their differences, there's an actual goddess of nature in Hinduism, and then all the gods and goddesses of Lucumi, of Yoruba, they are nature. They're resembled in nature. They're fused with nature. All of them have something to do with nature. They're tied to nature in some way. They can be perpetuated through nature. Also, the possession thing. The gods and the goddesses in Yoruba, in that when they possess you, and they it's not a negative thing. It's not like ghost possession. It's not anything like that. It's seen as a purification. It's seen that something so close to God came into you, and that purified the vessel that you have. That's seen as a great thing. And when that happens to you, your own consciousness is kind of like somewhere else at a moment, because at that time, what gets projected is the consciousness of this divine god or goddess. Without sounding redundant, hopefully I'm not, yoga is the thing. The yoga is the thing that gets you to God in Hinduism, right? In the West, on this side of the world, yoga turned into this thing that you do for exercise, to be flexible, and that's part of it, literally part of it. It's not the thing. It's not the thing. Yoga is meant to make you feel union. Yoga means union. Listen to Sadhguru. Yoga is meant to do so much more than what it's projected as here on the West. So there's that thing. There's that. They believe in having that communication, that relationship with God through your meditation, right? In Lucumi, Yoruba, Santeria, you do it. You do obras, you do offerings, but there's not really a time where you channel and communicate with your with your orishas. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure you can, but that speaks very, very highly on your level of spirituality if you know how to do that. But the religion itself doesn't like call you to pray or do things like that. If that's part of you, if that's who you are, then that's how your spirit is developed. Um, so in Santeria, one should be loyal to the Orishas, their ancestors, and God. So in Yoruba, there's that line, there's a ladder. First step to the ladder is human beings. Second step to that ladder is our ancestors. Third step to that ladder is the gods and goddesses, the Orishas. And then top ladder is God, the all, the infinite. The God in Yoruba is called Olodumare. Genderless and so powerful that we can only communicate with it through the gods and goddesses of nature. Another difference. So Yoruba religion is 5,000 years old. It goes back to that. That's how far back they can date it. The Hinduism Sanatana Dharma religion goes back 6,000 years back, and Sanatana Dharma speaks about God in Trinity form. It speaks about it in Trinity cloaked in duality. So like there's Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Their counterparts are feminine, so duality, and Brahma's counterpart is Saraswati, Vishnu's counterpart is Lakshmi, and Shiva's counterpart is Parvati. All these things together, the binary fusion is what makes God. So God is in the fusion of the binary, of the duality, in Hinduism. In Santeria speaks of God as like I said, it's a being that, one of the stories actually says that God just created the world and left it to be ran by the gods and goddesses. So like the Almighty just created everything, and then he left everything for the gods and goddesses to deal with. So that's, I think if I'm not missing anything, I think that wraps up the differences between them. And I think I can go into the similarities, because I really love the similarities. The similarities are so much more important because, man, they could tie us together and do so much more good. The differences are interesting because maybe we could apply the differences to our own lives, but the similarities are really cool because they show you how, like, that thing that we all have is doing the same thing. So similarities. Neither one of these two religions ask you to abandon your religion. So, if you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew or what's another one? Anything. If you're anything, neither one of these religions ask you to stop that. Neither one of them condemn that. Neither one of them tell you to drop it, to convert or anything like that. There's no such thing as converting to Santeria or converting to Hinduism. These they're very, in my opinion, these are two of the most open-minded philosophies around the world. Hinduism being a lot bigger. A lot bigger. I don't practice it as much as I used to in my past. And when I say practice Santeria, a lot of people think it means witchcraft. It doesn't. Witchcraft is a part of it that, honestly, if you're spiritually already inclined, you shouldn't even be participating in that, but it's there. What was I saying? Man. Point is that there's I wish that that's what I was gonna get. I wish that Santeria was more global. I wish that more people knew about it, so that more people could talk about it and what it is and study it, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of interestingness to it in the occult sciences. I should probably say that because that's the best general thing to call it, because I'm sure different places around the world do the same exact thing that's being done in Santeria. It's just what we call it here. But I wish it could be studied, because I swear this is what magic. Let's call it magic, but this is really magic, because It's not pulling wool over people's eyes. It's not pulling bunnies out of out of a hat. It's magic because it's the only way to describe it. There's magic involved because you do, I guess your intention, it shows you that your intention and your concentration on something, I guess, can make things happen, but it has to also happen in the right order. That's why there's ritual. Like, you can't just do it on sheer intention and will. A lot of the magic that happens has to happen through proper ritual and it being conducted a type of way, which is amazing because how do you figure that out? How much time did it take for you to get these rituals perfected to the point where you're not just hoping that it works? No, I know that this ritual works. Do this ritual. Like, they prescribe rituals like medicine in Santeria. For Hinduism, it's already pretty big. It's really, really big. It's one of the biggest religions in the world, but it's also really misunderstood because it's not it's big across the world because, let's be honest, India is getting big across the world. You can find Indian people everywhere, all over the globe. So because of that, you see Hinduism trickled in to places and stuff like that. But in terms of like a global understanding, the world does not understand Hinduism, not like it understands Christianity, not like it understands being Jewish, even being Muslim. Those are, the most popular ones. Hinduism is like that fourth runner up, that it's so big, but the people who know it are the people that know it. And it's interesting because that's kind of what Santeria is too. Like, the people who know it, and they don't care to impose it on people. They're so happy to have it that sums it all up for them. They don't think that it's something that needs to be pushed on somebody. If God brings you into my life and we start talking about it, then obviously you needed to hear about it in some way, shape, or form. So those are the differences, and I think we're doing the similarities. Second similarity: both of the religions worship gods, as you heard me saying earlier. They both worship gods and goddesses. They also, when you're worshiping your gods and goddesses, you do them with songs and with mantras and with cantos. That's similar in both. You can't do a ceremony without doing the right canto. You can do the right ceremony without doing the right mantra. Same thing. They're both purposes are so the soul gets back to the divine. It merges. It goes back to the divine. Maybe it's worded differently. Maybe it's just semantics. Maybe there's an actual difference in idea. But in Hinduism, the idea is that you're going to merge with God at some point in your spiritual evolution. That was once a physical evolution, but it became, it was always spiritual because the spirit's inside of everything. So at the peak of your spiritual evolution, in Hinduism, it says you merge with God. So it's no different. At the end, there's going to be no difference with you and God. You'll merge into God. In Santeria, in Yoruba, the idea is there's a heaven. There's a concept of heaven, as the same thing as in Hinduism. There's a heaven in both of them. But as far as the wording, in Santeria, you can get to be with God, right? You can perfect your life so that you can actually get to attain the company of God. But it doesn't necessarily say that you merge with God. So there might be that might be a differential thing. But they both talk about getting closer to God. It's all about the soul's life is about the soul's progress of getting closer to God. It's just that one ends in merging with God, one ends in, I guess, being with God. It's up to you to see what the difference is. I said before, the similarity is that they both have original names, but they go by something else. So Hinduism, its original name is Sanatana Dharma, and Santeria's original name is Yoruba or Lucumi. Both of the religions acknowledge reincarnation. Both of them acknowledge reincarnation. Both of them speak about it in different ways. About should it be avoided? Should we be trying to avoid it? Should we be trying to escape it? Why is it there? Stuff like that. in my opinion, you get a lot more description out of Hinduism about reincarnation and Hinduism. They have a lot more input on that. In Yoruba, in Lucumi, they'll mention your past life in like a reading and stuff like that, but it's not like I don't think they have like a very, very strong position on like why your life is the way it is. You know, like a chain. Like, I don't think they see the chain reaction. I think they see it a little bit more specific. They see it so individual that it's not like a pattern. I think in Hinduism, they see karma and reincarnation functioning as a pattern that either you're going to get out of the pattern or you're not going to get out of the pattern. It's pretty simple in that way. In Yoruba, they're not really trying to point out a pattern to you. They're trying to they just try to point out things that you need to work on because these things are holding you up. They don't speak about it as like a pattern that might have been happening from your past life. They might mention like in your past life, like, hey, are you sad in this life? Oh, well, something happened in your past life. They like mention it in passing type of thing. So they both acknowledge reincarnation. Both of the practices have individuals in the practice that can predict the future, that can do some type of divination, that can tell you, yes, do this, no, don't do this, do this more, do this less, that type of stuff. Both religions address dead spirits, like there's something to do with dead spirits. There's something to do with your ancestors that passed away. In Yoruba and Santeria, you put out your glasses, you do your boveda, you pray for them, you ask for their good things for them, that their souls be at rest, that their souls have peace, that their souls have glory and light, and that good stuff. You might even pray for their blessing, right? And that type of thing. In Hinduism, you only do that type of thing with spirits that were very highly elevated, like they were geared towards God. They weren't just randomly living life. They had their life came with intention and purpose. That's the type of ancestors that they welcome to bless them. Otherwise, they'll literally do rituals for like their loved ones when they pass away. They do rituals so that their loved ones don't stay attached to them. They do rituals so that their loved ones can go on and discover their ultimate nature, which is an interesting thing. So they both acknowledge their dead, but to different extents. Hinduism is acknowledging their dead so that they don't interfere anymore. Like, yeah, I know you like living life, but this is going to be my life, so go live your spiritual life now. In Yoruba, it's more like, hey, thank you because you're my ancestor. Thank you for giving me the lineage of existence, and basically amounting to my karmic destiny and stuff like that. And please guide me as something that you have a vibratory connection with. That's how they look at their dead spirits. Both religions talk about a heaven or a better place that is not earth that souls go to. They do talk about that. In my opinion, the Hinduism version is a little bit more interesting because they talk about how so you can have good karma, and your good karma will get you better results, right? But good karma still gets you reincarnated because it's still karma, it's still weight, it's still activity. Activity has to happen in the physical world. So you might have good karma, but that's going to get you reincarnated, and now you have to live another life, and maybe it's going to be a good life, but it's still reincarnation. So the ultimate is to go beyond reincarnation. You're not going to reincarnate no more. So they attain that through self-realization. That's their end-all be-all. It's not just getting a good life. It's not just getting it good. It's knowing it to its entirety, so I can go beyond it. So in Hinduism, there's heaven, there's heavens, there's multiple heavens, there's many heavens in Hinduism, if I'm not speaking incorrectly. There's abodes, there's different heavenly abodes that you go to. Some of them are spiritual abodes. Some of them are still material abodes, just better material abodes than this one. That's interesting. Like, yeah, we could all go to heaven, but we might go to, there's spectrum in heaven. There's a better heaven. There's heaven with less suffering than the other heaven. So maybe, it's just a play on words and ideas, but it's a lot more interesting in the Hindu way. Maybe because they talk about it more and there's more dialogue there. But in Yoruba, I haven't gotten to that part yet. From my understanding, it's just, we're on our way to God, and maybe we live multiple lifetimes to get our way there, but we're on our way to God. I think that wraps it up. I think that's the similarities and differences. If you guys have any questions, please comment and message. I will be putting my Venmo down below so that if you have a specific thing that you need answered, question, I can FaceTime you, give you, my advice a little bit more face-to-face and give you a little bit more energy that you can make tangible. So just send me, if you just need a simple text back, send me $1. I'll give you a text back or a message back, depending. If you send me $5, you'll get we'll get a FaceTime going, and we'll talk about what you want to talk about. Not for a long time. If I get invested in what you want to talk about, we're gonna talk about it. But I'm just trying to shed my light, shed my understandings to the people who need it. So yeah, if you want to hear me talk about more about these things, I know a lot more about these things. I kept it very general. I literally went down just a list of things that I find interesting about these two things. If there's more that you want to hear me touch on specifically, get to me, and yeah, thank you. Like and subscribe.